Boelter Jones, Pro Football Hall of Famer, top 100.
Tyler Lockett from the Seattle Seahawks.
DK Metcalf from
Nate Burleson. You're watching NorbCam.
NorbCam.
You're watching NorbCam.
Okay, and I see that my camera just turned off or something. Oh, that's a good start. There we go. I hope that doesn't continue to happen. What's up, everybody? This is NorbCam coming at you, live TV, because, you know, whenever it's live, you never know what's going to happen. Coming at you on this Wednesday, NorbCam Roundtable Edition. Excited to talk a little bit about Seahawks football, NFL, and, of course, another trivia contest coming your way. Today's marks a lot of stuff. Every day there's new news going on. Today's a big day because in the Seahawks side of things, training camp opened up today. First day, Seahawks. I watched a little bit of the live virtual broadcast of the training camp. Wasn't much to see. A lot of drills, throwing the ball, you know, pretty light. But it's just cool to see some Seahawks out in the shorts and jerseys out there running around, and empty training camp with no crowds, but it's cool to see them out there. And Jamal Adams out in the field, Russell Wilson throwing the ball, and Will Dissly, Greg Olsen, these guys who I'm so hyped up about. So it's off and rolling. It's happening. And John Rusua, of course, who was initially tested positive, was declared that it was a false positive, and he's on the field with the rest of the team. So no COVID with the Seahawks still, knock on wood. So I'm going to definitely bring my panel on here to talk about some different things. But before we do, I just want to remind everybody, if you like this, please hit that like button and the subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you'll be notified anytime a new video comes out, and helps me out a great deal. So without further ado, I want to bring on my panel right here, ladies and gentlemen. Right there to my left. Sorry, I got to adjust my camera a little bit. There we go. To my left, right up here, we got Calvin Domingo. Join the panel. What's up, man? Got his own channel, A. Steezy.
What's going on, you guys?
Steve Steezy A. Smith's got the new merch, I see. Looking good, man. Then, of course, to the top left,
thank you.
Yeah, regular, we got Noah Boelter of The Bolt. Thanks for coming on here, as always, on the weekly show, Noah.
How's it going?
It's going good. And then to the bottom left, or I should say the bottom right, we've got the winner, second time on the show, known as Fat Kid Ori on the stream, but this is Ori Huang, who won again the trivia contest last time and is here, earned another spot to co-host the show. Ori, welcome back to the NorbCam Roundtable.
Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I do want to talk, I want to get into this. You know, we've been talking so much about how the Seahawks have upgraded their defense, of course, with the blockbuster Jamal Adams trade, and then with Quentin Dunbar, the great news that we had last week about him having the case basically thrown out, charges dropped because of insufficient evidence. So now we've got the dream secondary that we wanted. But is it enough to raise the Seattle defense level from the overall 26 that they were last year? Can they move up enough to be the impact defense that we're so used to? Where do we see them landing? That's what we're going to get into in the rest of the show. But before we do, I do want to talk a little bit about this latest wrinkle in the college. We don't talk about college too much, but this is big enough that it affects the NFL. The Pac-12, which of course in the Pacific Northwest is our teams. We got the Wazoo Cougars and UW Huskies, my alum, and then Stanford and all the other teams here in the Pac-12, and the Big Ten Conference also deciding to cancel fall football and to postpone it to the spring. Just want to get a few thoughts from our guests here. What you guys think about this and how that might impact the NFL, particularly the draft, huge ramifications in terms of what NFL teams will be doing, looking at future players for next year. Calvin, let me start with you, man. What's your thoughts on the impact of this, besides the disappointment of those of us who watch college football, how disappointing it is to see that not going to happen, at least not until the spring. But what do you think? What's the impact of this with the NFL moving forward?
I think it affects the NFL draft more so than anything. I've been on the record saying that Seattle, they look like geniuses for trading away the first-round pick next season, just because there's so much uncertainty revolving around the college football season. You've already named two conferences that have opted out. I'm sure that those won't be the only two conferences that are going to opt out. I'm sure that other conferences will follow. And essentially, a lot of the top guys in college football won't be playing until the spring season. And obviously the NFL draft is held every spring, end of April, end of March, sometime around then. And so we won't be able to see these guys or upcoming prospects who wish to be drafted. We won't be able to see these guys in the upcoming fall. And so the only tape that teams will have to look back on are tape from previous years, from last season, for example. And so I think that with so much uncertainty with college football, once again, Seattle, they look like geniuses. If I'm any other team in the NFL, I wouldn't want any part of the 2021 NFL draft just because we don't know what these guys are going to look like. We don't know what they've been doing in their time away from college football. Obviously, as a fan of the game itself, it sucks to see that the season has to be postponed, but it's just what has to happen. But I think it affects the NFL draft more so than anything.
I agree. And I think with the Jamal Adams, the fact that 2 draft picks were given up in next year's draft for him, and now that the draft is becoming all kind of messed up, it definitely, I think, works to our favor for the certainty that what we get, as opposed to what we potentially lose, and now a draft that can't be counted on at all. Let's go to our guest, Ori. What do you think, Ori? I know we talked a little bit off the record or off before the air. You're not much of a college guy, but regardless, that's where all the players come from in terms of fueling the next rookie stars of the NFL. Any thoughts on the fact that college football has become so broken up this way? Some conferences going forward, some postponing. What do you think?
So, I think this was a good move by John Schneider. He kind of got up to date with what was going on in the NFL, trading away our first round picks because we don't know what's going to happen next year. And then who knows, the Jets, they may make bad selections with their first rounders because these players are probably going to be rusty after 1 year without seeing the field. So it definitely has an impact on the draft. And as of now, if it was last year, I heard someone talk about Joe Burrow, about how he was like unknown, and then he burst into the spotlight this year. But number 1 draft pick, I feel like it's going to be Trevor.
Right, and the Jets already have their quarterback in place, so now it's going to be a question of once you get past the first few picks of the first round, things get kind of murky there. And I think the big challenge is for teams is being able to figure out, without the typical season where they've got this fall football to look at all the tape and the draft in the spring. Now the draft is going to be potentially maybe pushed back to June so that if the seasons do play in the spring, then they still would have a chance to watch these players and still be able to do then there's the combine and then the draft. It's a lot now. Everything kind of jammed together in a small period. Noah, what do you think about the impact on all this? It's just unprecedented, crazy times with everything shuffling around like this.
Well, there's a lot of different sides to cover about this. Ori brought up a really good point talking about how the Joe Burrow story doesn't happen if Burrow is a senior this year. He would have been, a 5th-round pick last year had he not had his senior season. And he went from a 5th-round pick making hundreds of thousands of dollars per year to making $20 million every year, if not $30 million. And that's just based off one season. That's the kind of impact it's going to have. So I think for a lot of the college kids, those 5th-year seniors, those people that are missing an opportunity to shine where they've worked all offseason and prepared all offseason, it's going to really suck for them. And for that reason, I actually disagree with the idea that it's not necessarily it's healthier for them not to play. A lot of people have argued that based on how the doctors would treat this scenario, it'd almost be healthier for the players to play this regular season. The reason being, these are a bunch of college students, right? So first of all, there's the question, what happens with all the scholarships? But also there's the question, okay, if a lot of schools are going to be having classes while still not having football, are people going to be social distancing in the hallways? Are people going to be social distancing at their dorm parties? Are people going to be social distancing? Remember, these are college kids. It's unrealistic to think that that's going to happen. Well, by having a season, you would require constant testing, constant monitoring, constant health awareness, and it would be an extra reason and a motivating factor for why these players should social distance and should keep themselves COVID-free so that they can stay on the field. So I think there's actually a major benefit side to playing the college football season. And I think it's just showing a lack of leadership and unity within college football that's really come forward right here. And it's disappointing, honestly, to me. But I think the impact on next year's draft is phenomenal. Or not in a good way, but it's tremendous. It's large. And I think that what this means for next year's combine is that it's going to be the most important NFL combine ever. Basically, you're going to have an opportunity to see where people are at physically after a year away from football, potentially, if we're unable to come back in the spring. I think that NCAA should try and come back in the spring. I think that it's likely they come back in the spring. I definitely am a believer that college football is still going to happen, but I don't think that it's in the best interest for a lot of the players to not play, especially considering the realistic opportunity that a lot of these players have to try and build themselves as a contender for an NFL team.
It's funny how you mentioned these college players because you're basically a college student. So you and Cal, you guys are, or he's still you live a few years back, but you guys kind of represent. You're in that age of these college students that we're talking about. So I don't know. Do you guys feel as invincible as everyone talks about college students being, because they're the ones who will feel like, hey, I'm not going to get sick? You speak of them as this certain group of individuals, yet that is you, Noah and Calvin in particular.
The thing is, there's teachers and family who are probably a lot older.
Yeah, no, this is true. This is true. But Noah, you're going to Wazoo. You're in just a few days heading to one of these campuses we speak of. So how weird is it that you're going to go to Wazoo in the fall and have absolutely no sporting events as a sports journalism major to be going into campus, and there'll be no sports to talk about or cover? It's pretty bizarre, isn't it?
It's tremendously disappointing. I was on a call. Norb, I was a little bit late to join our Skype call today. The reason being, I spent the last 2 hours on a call with the Wazoo radio station sports team talking about how we're going to try and cover on the radio station for a fall with no sports. And it's going to be tough. It's going to be difficult, but we're coming together with a whole bunch of content. Just what sports means for the world. Ori, you're a political guy. And one of the main reasons that I tend to lean away from talking politics and towards talking sports, it tends to be that politics separate rooms. Politics tear people apart. Sports bring people together. You always remember the moments with sports and those positive and negative moments, but it's generally a happier feeling. With politics, the most that you're going to do typically, unless you're going to be a political leader, is to tear people apart. So sports on a bunch of college teenagers and beyond, obviously, 20-year-olds, young adults, it's a tremendous impact that it's going to have not having that for us college students. I think that the biggest thing is, if there was football, it would be a motivating factor specifically for these athletes to keep themselves healthy, to keep themselves clean, to stay away from COVID, and to follow those guidelines, because their season, their future, their money, everything that they do is on the line based on if they can play every Saturday. And because of that, I think that motivation factor is gone because there's no football. And I think a lot of college athletes are going to have that mentality, Norb, that you were talking about, where they're just fearless. They're not afraid. They're in the best shape of their lives. It's unlikely statistically for them to get a serious illness because of COVID, and because of that, they're going to let it get to their heads. Whereas if there was a season, it would be that ultra motivating factor, because if with consistent testing, you can't spread it around, that would be the motivating factor. That's why the main reason that I disagree from what I know and from the current standpoint, that the NCAA should cancel the season.
Hey, Calvin, we were talking before we went on air, and I just found out from you that you are a sports editor at the paper where you go to school. How is it for you, knowing that, assuming for you there won't be much sports to talk about? How's that going to affect you with this upcoming year?
I mean, I've actually already kind of experienced it last spring. All the spring was online, right? And so all the sports was canceled, and I didn't really have that many articles to write about. I had to focus on writing other pieces. I couldn't really talk about sports as much as I wanted to. I had to dive and to delve deeper into other subjects, which I'm fine doing so. But obviously, as a sports journalism major, I'd prefer to write about sports. And so I think the experience of having to write about other topics, other subjects, that kind of helped me. I think in the future, because I'd like to write more than just sports, but for the time being, I'd like to keep it at sports. And so I've already had experience writing about other things. And I've already talked to my professor about how things are going to go down in the upcoming fall. Because once again, sports are canceled, at least in this conference for the school that I'm attending. Sports are going to be canceled yet again. And so I had to talk with them earlier today about what the game plan is going to be for the fall quarter and how we're going to approach things and what we're going to write about. And so, I think one of the first stories I'm supposed to write about is just the reactions of players and coaches to the seasons being canceled. But after that, I don't even know what I'm going to be writing about. And so it's going to be tough, real tough. But we got to make adjustments on the fly and just learn from that and kind of use those experiences to mold myself to, I guess, be more diverse when it comes to writing about other subjects.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. So for everybody who's out there watching and typing and responding on the chat, please continue to do so. I try to catch comments when I can, but they fly by pretty quick. If you want to submit a super chat, that's definitely a way to get the panel and my attention. You can also send an email to norb@norbcam.com, which is right over there, right there somewhere. And you can send me an email. I'm going to be checking some of the questions that you might be submitting online, and we might get to a couple during the course of the show. But appreciate you guys watching. Yeah, it's definitely very interesting times right now, and I see Ori. He's not only a panelist, but he's participating in the chat, and he likes to talk about politics. And something that we tend to shy away from over here, just because, again, we keep to it sports. So I'm going to stick to sports on this. But you, by all means, have your political forums when you feel like having them. But we're not going to get into that today. What I do want to get into, though, is to talk, as I said in my headline, how good will the Seahawks defense be in 2020? Let's get into that right now. What I want to do is I want to do an actual comparison to the other NFC West teams, how we stack up position group by position group. But before we do that, I just want to get an overall sense of how much better are we as a defense. Clearly, we've made improvements, but we've also had a few losses here and there, and we still have questions unanswered in terms of finalizing those couple spots that we know are really crucial, particularly the defensive line. So, Calvin, let's start with you. Tell me what you think about our defense as it stands right now from compared to last year. We were ranked 26 overall, total yardage given up, not good enough. How do you see our defense being improved this year so far?
I mean, we were so bad. I've been on the record saying this multiple times. There's nowhere to go but up. Like you said, we were 26 in yards. I think we were 22nd in points allowed. Pro Football Focus ranked us as the dead last going to next season. Sacks, we were second to last in the NFL, last in the NFC. I've also been on the record saying that if our dream secondary if everybody were to play, I think that we'd have the best secondary in football. And I think that alone improves our pass rush, whether or not we add guys like Everson Griffin or Clay Matthews. I think having a solid secondary, guys that could cover for who knows how long, that alleviates the pressure that the guys, the defensive linemen have when it comes to going after the quarterback. We could, let's say we don't sign Everson Griffin, let's say we don't sign Clay Matthews, let's say we don't bring anyone else in. I think that we still improve as a defense. I don't think that we're going to all of a sudden vault into being a top 10 defense in the NFL. I think that maybe brings us to being in the middle of the pack, which is a significant improvement when you look at the fact that we were so bad last season. I think that would help us tremendously. We were able to win 11 games despite the fact that we had a terrible defense. We went through so many injuries. Coaching was a problem. And so I think that that's a good sign. Now, if we were to bring in a guy like Everson Griffin, Clay Matthews, maybe Cameron Wake, I think that would help even more. I think that would bring us from being in the middle of the pack to potentially being a top 10 defense, because I think that we have most of our starters set at each position aside from the defensive line. That's really the only position I think that needs to be addressed. You look at our linebacking core, all three of our linebackers are set in stone. Our secondary, Dunbar, Diggs, Adams, Shaquille Griffin coming off his first Pro Bowl season. I think that our defense is going to be up there in terms of points allowed, in terms of yards allowed. I'm really excited about the outlook. I just hope that we complete that final step and complete that missing complete the missing piece of the puzzle by bringing in guys like Everson Griffin or Clay Matthews or both, if we can. And so I think that I'm very optimistic. about the future, about the outlook of our defense in the coming season. I can't wait to see what Ken Norton Jr. can do, calling plays for this defense heading into next season.
All right, so middle of the pack improvement. I'll take that over 26 for sure. So that's not too bad. Ori, how about you? What's your thoughts on the Seattle defense? How much are we improved since last year?
Oh, I think Seattle's defense could very well be a top 10 defense. It depends on like the pass rush. Who knows? We could have a good pass rush. The young guys like Darrell Taylor, Alton Robinson, L.J. Collier, Rasheem Green, if they can step up. And there's someone that a pass rusher that he hasn't been mentioned much that I think will have a pretty big impact. Maybe like I'm comparing him to Michael Bennett coming back in 2013. Benson Mayowa he had 7 sacks last year in limited time, so I think he'll have a much bigger impact. He'll have a bigger impact if he starts. And one of the things Seattle defense has to do is stay healthy. Our secondary, it looks very good on paper, but Quinton Dunbar, he hasn't been the healthiest in his career. He's had some injury issues, and then and if our secondary goes down, we have to bring up guys like Lano Hill, who isn't very good. So I think as long as we stay healthy and the young guys step up, we can be a top 10, maybe top 5 defense.
Wow, very optimistic. Last half full to go from 26 to potentially top 10. And I guess you're leaving some room in there, depending if we can get some last-minute pickups and maybe bump that number up into that kind of category. Pretty optimistic, but I like that. I agree. No one's talking about Benson Mayowa, who's just quietly, he's not a name that if you mention, hey, we got Benson Mayowa, no one's like doing cartwheels about it. But he has statistically done some pretty good things over the years. And we saw him just in the very beginning when he started his career in that Super Bowl year when we went to Super Bowl 48. And he didn't do much with us here, but he definitely started to take off once he left Seattle. So to get him back now where he's doing some great things is pretty good timing, I would like to think. Noah, how about you, man? Talk about this defense. Where are we now after we were 26 last year? What do you think?
I like the optimism, Ori. I don't think we're going to be that good, unfortunately. I think the ceiling for us is going to be like top 9, maybe top 8 defense this year. And unfortunately, the reason being is because getting to the quarterback is the name of the game. While I do think that we are tremendously improving our pass rush in ways that people don't understand just how seriously we are this offseason. Essentially, last year, we had 28 sacks for the entire regular season. This offseason, with the players that we brought in, you take the 8 from Bruce Irvin, the 7 from Benson Mayowa, and the 6.5 from Jamal Adams. That's 21.5 potential sacks, and that's 3 guys that would have led our team had they been in Seattle and had the same outputs last year. So I definitely think our sacks jump from 24. I think we get at least 40 this year. Because of that, I think our defense improves. I think it's going to be a top 15, top half of the league at least. You look at our secondary, and Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs have that rapport going back to college. They made a connection way back then, and that's the same reason that Quandre Diggs was the first person that Jamal Adams called when figuring out about the trade. You know, he was like a little giddy kid on Christmas Eve that peeked at his present but wasn't supposed to tell anyone yet. The way that he was talking to Quandre Diggs about a trade, he was like, hey, you can't tell anybody because we don't know if it's going to happen yet, but, you know, I might get traded. So they were super excited about that. We also brought in a guy that would have led our team in interceptions last year in only 11 games of action, and that's Quinton Dunbar. So our turnover aspect got better. Our sack aspect got better. People are sleeping on us once again. Because of that, I think our defense improves. Pro Football Reference had us listed as the 22nd best defense in the NFL last year. While that might have been a little bit ambitious, I think we end up between 14 and 9. That is my 5-team range. We're going to be top half in the NFL next year, but I don't think we're going to be top 5.
Okay, so you kind of land somewhere in the middle, and I think that's, I would probably say, me being cautiously optimistic, between 15 and 10. If we could land on the upper half of the 32 teams, that would be pretty good because we have been sliding every year since we were a top 1 defense in the league a few years ago. Being top 20 and being the 26 has been a sad sight to see. I am still of that feeling, what is Seattle going to do with that? There's been talk of Clay Matthews and, Griffin being brought in. It's still being talked about because until it actually happens, it's just talk. So still waiting to see if anything's going to transpire. And if it does, I mean, that's going to be, we're still gauging everything on what we have right now. And most of the other teams' rosters have been pretty set, defensively speaking. So for us, we're trying to plug in those last two spots in there. That potential Clowney return, which I've been sticking to my guns saying that he could still possibly come back and surprise everybody. Not looking good right now, but it still could happen. And that alone could, again, nudge things a little bit forward if any one of those three and maybe possibly two of those players were to come to Seattle. But obviously the Quentin Dunbar, Jamal Adams, that part is huge. One thing I think that is... you talk about sacks with Jamal Adams. He's our strong safety. So how often do we blitz him? How often do we use him in to attack the quarterback? Leaving our secondary somewhat vulnerable. That'll be an interesting to see how Ken Norton decides to use him in that degree. Are they going to blitz him as aggressively as he did back when he was with New York? What way will they use his strengths? Hopefully they do, because we have not really done a whole lot of blitzing, particularly from I think from the strong safety position as much as some other teams have. So maybe that might change with him coming into it. Okay, so let's do this now. I want to do a kind of a side-by-side comparison, starting with the. Who should we start off? We just start with the Cardinals, actually, because I think they were the worst. They were worse defense than us last year. So what I want to do is go through team by team in the NFC West, position group by position group, and we're going to mark off from defensive line to linebackers, cornerbacks, and safeties which team has the edge, just to compare how our defense stacks up against another, all right? So I'm going to pull up this graphic here. Let's first start off by looking at the Cardinals lineup here. There we go. There's our graphic. So let's start with the defensive line. For the Arizona Cardinals, we've got at left end, Zach Allen, Jordan Phillips, a defensive tackle, Corey Peters at right defensive end. Now, these guys run a 3-4, I believe, so that's why we only have three. And then we have outside linebacker Isaiah Simmons, but I think they run a 3-4, don't they? They have three down linemen and four linebackers. So let's start with the defensive line. I guess we'll start with the front three there. Let's see how we compare in terms of. Let me bring up my overlay here of our graphic. Where is it here? Our split. There you go. Right there. Okay, so I got my little graphic here, and it's the wrong team, though. We want to have the Cardinals here. Where's the Cardinals at? There we go. All right, Cardinals. So defensive line. Let's start with Ori. What's your thoughts here? Who's got the advantage on the defensive line, Seahawks or Cardinals?
Honestly, I feel like the Cardinals do slightly because they have Chandler Jones. Besides that, I don't really know any of their D-line players that well. Because Chandler Jones is really good, but besides that, I don't really know.
He's listed as a linebacker.
So I'm gonna.
Yeah, Chandler Jones is technically a linebacker.
And 3-4 probably. So
yeah.
I'm gonna give the edge to Cardinals.
You're still gonna give it to the Cardinals. All right, let's go to Calvin. Defensive line, Cardinals or Seahawks?
Oh, that's Seattle easily, without a doubt. I think that if Arizona had Chandler Jones as a part of their, or if he was a defensive lineman in their system, then I would give the edge to Arizona simply because of the fact that Chandler Jones is one of the best pass rushers in all of football. But because he's not, I got to give the edge to Seattle. I believe that I'm also taking into account the fact that we're going to bring in somebody. And so I think that gives us an advantage over Arizona. Even if we don't bring anyone else in, I still think we have an advantage over Arizona. Even though we don't have that one guy who's a stud, we have plenty of depth. Bruce Irvin, Benson Mayola, Alton Robinson, Darrell Taylor, Jaron Reed. We hope that he can bounce back. Puna Ford is one of the best one-stuff and defensive tackles in football. So we have a lot of depth over on the defensive line. I got to get Seattle the edge.
All right, Noah, who do you give the edge to? Defensive line.
If Chandler Jones was a defensive lineman for Arizona, I don't even know if I would give them the advantage per se, just because reading some of the other names on their defensive line, I threw up a little bit in my mouth. I'd take Seattle in the defensive line matchup, and I think it's a blow-away because of the fact that Jerron Reed is there. We have a guy now, in Bruce Irvin, who's going to play defensive line for us, and because of that, Benson Mayo as well. I like Seattle's defensive line better than Arizona's.
Okay, so all right, so keeping it on the edge there with Seattle's defensive line, and I'm gonna sway the tide, keep it there as well. So I think defensive line, based on that scheme, that Seattle does have the better defensive line. I mean, I like what we got in terms of. We have kind of a understated line in terms of our starters, Jaron Reed, Poona Ford, but with Bruce Irvin coming back, I mean, I'm kind of liking what we got in there. Not to mention Rasheem Green, who had a great year last year. I think we quietly have a better line. We just need those star players to kind of jump out and that we can find. But so far, I like what we got here. So I'll agree with you. 3-1 that we've got the advantage on the defensive line. So let's go to the linebackers. Ori, who's got the advantage here?
Seattle. That's an easy one because we have Bobby Wagner, KJ Wright. While he's declining, he's getting old, but he's still solid. And Jordan Brooks should be decent.
Yeah, I agree. Bobby Wagner, best linebacker in the NFL, arguably. Let's go to Calvin.
Yeah, make that 2 for 2. This one isn't very hard. I think that we have one of the best linebacking corps in football, led by the best linebacker in football, and Bobby Wagner. Jordan Simmons has been arguably the best college football linebacker in the last couple of seasons. As I mentioned time and time again, KJ Wright, although he kind of slipped up a little bit last season, showing signs of age, he still had a career high in tackles. And I think that we have some depth at linebacker. Although with Arizona, I do like Isaiah Simmons and what he brings to the table. I don't think that he could change the outlook of the linebacking core by himself. I still think that they need more firepower. Oh, Chandler Jones, I forgot to mention. He's also a linebacker in that 3-4 system. But aside from those guys, you have a stud, a rookie, and unknowns, essentially. And so got to go with Seattle here.
All right. So, and I've got to make some adjustments here because I've got a situation. I've got a situation with my camera here where my camera is overheating and shutting off on me intermittently, which is just fantastic. Which is why you don't see me right now. So I'm going to put this. Let's see. There we go. We can still do our scores right here while we talk about this, and I'm letting my camera cool down. So let's talk about. Let's see. So we got Noah, linebacking crew. Do you agree?
I agree, but I think it's closer than you guys are giving credit. Isaiah Simmons, the best linebacker in the draft, transcended talent that shouldn't have fallen that far in the draft, and I was very scared and upset that he fell to Arizona. Also, Chandler Jones, a great linebacker, pass-rushing linebacker that does a great job of tackling in space as well. I think it comes down to, do you want Chandler Jones and Isaiah Simmons, or do you want Bobby Wagner and Jordan Brooks? And because of that, I think, KJ Wright does tip the scales as well. But even without KJ, I would take Seattle in that matchup. I think it's close, but I give the edge to Seattle.
All right, and I'm going to do the same thing. I love our linebacking crew. They are getting a little older with our veterans, but I think they still got enough in the tank to hold that spot there. So I'm going to say we sweep the linebacker side, Seattle with the edge over Arizona. Now, let's go to the cornerbacks. Things get a little interesting here with that. Ori, let's go to you as the guest. Who's got the edge in cornerback?
I think Seattle has the edge with Shaquille Griffin and Quentin Dunbar as our starters. Well, Arizona, they do have Patrick Peterson, but he's getting a bit old, and besides him, I don't think they really have any other corners that are good, so Seattle has the better corners.
Okay. Calvin.
Yeah, I got to rock with Seattle yet again. Patrick Peterson, ever since he came back from his, I think it was an 8-game suspension from PEDs, he just hasn't looked the same. Even before the suspension, he was showing signs of decline the last couple of years. They had one of the best safeties in football as well, Buda Baker, but aside from those two guys, they don't really have anyone else, I think, that can match up to the best safety duo in which we have in Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs. Quentin Dunbar was the number 2 ranked cornerback by Pro Football Focus last year. Shaquille Griffin was a first-time Pro Bowler. I just think that we win by a landslide.
Okay, Noah.
So I agree. We do have the advantage in the cornerback room. If it was 2012, I'd take Patrick Peterson. But last year, in only 11 games, Quentin Dunbar had twice as many interceptions as Patrick Peterson. And I'll take that to my bank any day of the week. Alongside Shaq, who, as Calvin said, just had his first Pro Bowl season. Whether it was a fill-in or not, that's great experience for the young bull. He needs to get an interception this year. But I definitely think that happens. And I say Seattle wins the cornerback matchup.
All right, and I'm going to add to that, being the homer that I am, but also because I believe Quentin Dunbar is going to have a great season for us, and Shaquille Griffin, motivated. He's nearing the end of his rookie season. He's going to want to prove some things to the rest of the league and to Seattle that he belongs in that shutdown left side cornerback. So I go with Seattle with the cornerback advantage. So let's go to safety. This might be an easy one, but let's see. Ori, what do you think?
Seattle.
Yes.
Well, Arizona does have Buda Baker and some other person who I don't know. But Seattle has Jamal Adams now, so I'm gonna give it to Seattle because Jamal Adams, he may be the best safety or the second best in the league.
Yeah, Buda Baker from UW, free safety there, and strong safety Jalen Thompson. They're a little bit undersized, not the most dominating safeties in the league. But yeah, let's go to Calvin next.
Once again, this one isn't very hard. Arizona has one stud in Buda Baker, who just so happens to be one of the best safeties in football. But in Seattle, we have the best safety in football in Jamal Adams. And not only do we have one stud, but we have two. And another in Quandre Diggs. I think that in his time in Seattle last season, in the games that he played with us, he showed that he was one of the best safeties in football. You put those two together, we have the best safety duo in football. So this one isn't very hard either. Seattle takes the edge in the safety matchup.
All right, Noah, you going to make it 3?
I don't know if I would yet say that we have the best safety duo in the NFL. I want to see us play at least a little bit first. I think the potential is definitely there, and I think our safeties are definitely better than Arizona, so I'll take Seattle in this one.
All right, and for everything that we gave up to bring Jamal Adams here and how much I already love Quandre Diggs back there, this to me is the most obvious one. Definitely going with the safety duo in Seattle. Not necessarily the best in the league, but definitely I think best in this matchup. So Seattle versus Arizona defensively with the one vote by Ori to go with the defensive line of Arizona. Pretty much an overwhelming decision that Seattle is definitely the better defense going into 2020 against the Cardinals. So let's move on to now the Rams and let's see what how we match up against them. We changed the logo of the team here. Where are you? There we go. To the Rams with that funky, weird logo that they got going on. Let's see if I can pop my camera up here for a second. Let's go pull up the Rams defensive line to start there. So, as we all know, the Los Angeles Rams, very, very talented defensive line with two big names on there that we can't forget, of course, Aaron Donald and the best one for sure, Michael Brocker is not too bad himself. Let's start with Ori. What's your thoughts on the matchup head-to-head, Seattle against L.A.?
Well, I'm going to give the defensive line to the Rams because they got Aaron Donald and Michael Brockers. And Aaron Donald's probably the best defensive tackle in the league, although I'm not a fan of him because I remember watching an old video about how he hit Justin Britt during the 2018 game. So that's one thing that I don't like about Aaron Donald, but despite that, he's a really good player. So I'm going to give it to the Rams.
Okay. Calvin.
This one was very close. I got to give the overwhelming advantage to the Los Angeles Rams. It could be Aaron Donald on the defensive line versus all of our guys. I'd still take Aaron Donald. He's that good. He's one of the 3, 4, 5 best players in all of football, not just on the defensive side of the ball. And he's worked with plenty of guys on the defensive line. A couple years ago, he had Domingo, which led to a career high in 20.5 sacks. Last season, he only had 12.5 sacks, but he's had at least 8 or more sacks in every single season dating back to his rookie year. He's just been that dominant, that transcendent, that good. LA takes advantage here.
Noah Boelter, the Bolt.
Well, the Rams logo kind of looks like a bolt, to be honest. I kind of almost want to call them the LA Bolts, but unfortunately, I do have to give them defensive line for the same reasons as Calvin. Aaron Donald takes the cake.
All right, and I'll make that 4 in a row. So defensive line by overwhelming fashion. LA Rams with the advantage. Let's go to linebacker now. This is an interesting one. Seattle definitely bases a lot of their offense on, or defense with the linebacking crew as an important part of it. LA, not so much. Playing a lot of dime where sometimes they only have one linebacker out there at a time, and they've definitely spent the money on secondary and the defensive line. So where do we stand, Ori, in terms of the linebackers?
I'm going to go with Seattle. The only good Rams linebacker I know is probably Littleton. That's the only one I actually heard of.
And he's not even there anymore.
I don't know any Rams linebackers, so Seattle.
All right, so Ori takes Seattle. Calvin.
Yeah, if Littleton hadn't left, if they hadn't released Clay Matthews, this would be a little closer, but Seattle easily has a better linebacking core. I can't name a single linebacker on the Rams after Corey Littleton's departure and after the release of Clay Matthews. And so this one, once again, isn't very hard. Seattle takes advantage.
I think their entire linebacking crew only makes up not even a fraction of what Bobby Wagner is making. So financially, they definitely have not spent the money to shore up that department. But Noah, you agree?
It's not even close.
I agree. Not even close. So let's just skip that discussion. Let's go to cornerbacks. Gets a little bit more interesting here. Who's got the edge, Seattle or Los Angeles? Ori.
Honestly, I think Seattle has better corners. Yeah, the Rams do have Jalen Ramsey.
They have Jalen Ramsey.
I looked it up, and it looks like Troy Hill. I don't know about Troy Hill though.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give the edge to the Seahawks.
Troy Hill's not a slouch. Definitely not as up to the par as Jalen Ramsey, but Jalen Ramsey, they invested heavily into him, and they're going to need him to be worth every dollar that they spend because they gave up a buttload for him. Let's go to Calvin. Calvin, your thoughts?
So this one's really, really close. You look at the cornerbacks in LA, you have one of the better cornerbacks in football, if not the best cornerback in football, Jalen Ramsey. He can essentially eliminate an entire half of the field in his own right. But when you look at Seattle, we have the best combination, the perfect combination of depth, solid starters, guys who are young prospects. And so if I had to pick, I got to give a slight edge to Seattle. And I say that without any bias whatsoever. I don't have to be a Seattle fan to pick Seattle. But if I'm comparing the two secondaries or if I'm comparing the cornerbacks on each team, I'd rather go with the team that has more well-rounded guys that have the potential to be stars, rather than the position group that has one superstar and a whole bunch of depth guys. So in a real tight one, I'm going with Seattle.
Okay. Noah.
See, Cal, I don't even think it's as tight as you make it out to seem. I think it's Seattle and a little bit of a walkaway. And part of the reason is because of how much – last year was my first year with NFL Sunday Ticket, and I watched pretty much every single game all season, including quite a few Rams games. And watching Jalen Ramsey in some of his different matchups with different teams, when they played against Julio Jones, that game was a lot of fun to watch. I had Julio in fantasy. Julio still put up some points for me. Jalen Ramsey had a down year last year. He went to a new system halfway through, and he struggled, frankly, which is why it's going to be so difficult. It's Jalen Ramsey for the Rams was pretty much the same trade as Jamal Adams to Seattle, except the difference is they're overpaying a lot of their guys. We're not overpaying our guys. And Jalen Ramsey plays corner, and Jamal Adams is going to play safety. I think Jamal Adams fits our defense better than Jalen Ramsey fits theirs. Jalen Ramsey was getting smoked last year on a couple of plays, including a play that cost them the game against the 49ers the second time in any hope at the playoffs. So because of that, I take Seattle because Jalen Ramsey had a down year, and our second corner is better than their second, third, fourth, all the way down the line.
Okay. Yeah, it was tight for me as well. And if we didn't get Dunbar over here in that case being thrown out, I think I might have leaned towards LA. But with Dunbar here, it's a whole different story for me. So I go with Seattle for the 4-0 sweep in the cornerback side. So that takes us to the safeties. Ori.
Rams, they have solid safeties. John Johnson, Taylor Rapp. So this is another one of those where it's like closer, like the cornerbacks, but I'd say Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs would be slightly better because I don't think either John Johnson or Taylor Rapp are superstars.
So, but you give the edge to LA?
Seattle.
Oh, to Seattle. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Ori picks Seattle in the safety department. Calvin, how about you?
I think that, once again, this one is very hard. I've been on the record saying that we have the best safety duo in football, or I project us to have the best safety duo in football by next season. The Rams, they let go of LaMarcus Joyner. Taylor Rapp, he's still a youngin in this league. I think he still needs time to develop. He needs more polish. He has shown signs of promise, but he's still, a young player in this league, and he hasn't shown enough for me to be able to take the Rams. This one's not hard. Seattle.
Okay. Noah, you going to make it 3?
If our safety groups were teams in the NFL last year, our safeties would be Baltimore in week 1, and their safeties would be Miami. It's Seattle in a landslide here. Their ceiling is our floor, if that, and because of that, Seattle, no question about it.
All right, and I have to go with you as well. As I've said before, safeties, hard-pressed to find one better in this combination. We're going Seattle there. So LA with the defensive line overwhelmingly with the better D-line, but when it comes to linebackers, cornerbacks, and safeties, Seattle with the edge. I would have to say then between the two, Seattle wins that overall defensive matchup 3 categories to 1. Seattle on top. So let's talk now with the ever-challenging, the team we're looking to go up against and take the throne away from. We're talking about the San Francisco 49ers. Let's start there now and talk about their defensive line. Ori, we know what a monster D line they have. Pretty scary. What's your thoughts on the San Francisco defensive line versus the Seattle defensive line?
San Francisco, because they got Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, just to name a couple of them. There's more. Probably more. Javon Kinlaw, they replaced DeForest Buckner with Javon Kinlaw. So I think the Niners have the better D-line.
Yeah, going across the top, we've got Armstead, Solomon Thomas, Javon Kinlaw, and Nick Bosa, of course. Let's go to Calvin.
Yeah, I'd take San Fran in a heartbeat. I think a scary sight than Aaron Donald on defensive line is the San Francisco 49ers defensive line. Nick Bosa as a rookie was a top 20, top 25 player in all the NFL. Solomon Thomas is a former first-round pick, 3rd overall just a couple years ago. Eric Armstead had a career high in sacks actually with 10. Javon Kinlaw, he's going to be a terror. San Fran in a heartbeat.
Yeah, unfortunately, a scary sight we're going to have to be looking at for a while there. Noah?
San Fran. It might be close by the end of the year if San Fran has a down year and Seattle has a good year, but their floor is pretty close to our ceiling, so San Fran.
Yeah, I got to go with them too. One of the scariest defensive lines in the NFL, possibly one of the best. Nick Bosa alone is great, but he's got 3 other guys who can hold their own as well, and they've got depth behind them. Possibly their second tier guy could start on our line, and that's how deep they are. It reminds me a lot of our Super Bowl 48 defensive line. It's pretty scary, and Russell's going to have to do a lot of running to get away from those guys, and hopefully our offensive line can do some holding them back. But let's go to the linebacking crew. This is 49ers are stacked top to bottom, but do we have an edge anywhere along here? Let's find out. Ori?
Well, let's see who the 49ers linebackers are. If you can pull them up. I know Fred Warner's one of them. Quan
Alexander, Fred Warner, and Dre Greenlaw. Dre Greenlaw is the one who kept us out of the end zone, short 3 inches of the goal line, and took away our would-have-been NFC West title. Pretty scary group as well.
That stupid pass interference penalty on Jacob Hollister
there's that too.
At the 1 yard line.
Yep.
So,
well,
this is
all that said, where do you stand on it?
Really tough one. My biased opinion would be Seattle, but unbiased, it's really hard to say if it's the Seahawks or the Niners.
So what are you saying, man? You gotta make a choice.
I'll just go with, actually, it's a tough one, but I think Niners have to have an edge somewhere, so just gonna...
You're going with Niners?
Give it to the Niners.
All right. Calvin.
D4, Quan Alexander, Fred Warner versus Bobby Wagner, KJ Wright, and Jordan Brooks. This one is super, super close. Very, very, very close. But the Niners had one of the best defenses in football last season, if not the best defense in football last season, and for good reason. Not only is their defensive line dominant, but their linebacking core is dominant. I got to go San Fran. You look at D4, he's one of the best pass rushers at his position. Fred Warner, he had a breakout year. Quan Alexander was injured for a lot of the year, but he's a tackling machine. He can do it all on defense, as he's shown in Tampa Bay in previous years. You look at the fact that our guys are starting to slow down. KJ Wright starting to slow down. Bobby Wagner is still the best linebacker in football, but he's starting to slow down. I think that because we have Bobby Wagner, we have somewhat, I don't know. I could see somebody, or I could see why you guys, or why anyone would pick Seattle. But I just think that you look at the totality of the depth, the star power, the versatility. San Fran has it all in their linebacking core. And this one's real tough, and I hate to say it, but San Francisco has a better linebacking core than Seattle.
Noah.
All right. Someone's got to talk some sense to these guys. Clearly. Because they're taking San Francisco's linebacking core over Seattle. Calvin, you said it. We have the best linebacker in the NFL. We also have one of the best linebackers in last year's draft. We also have KJ Wright, who was top 5 in tackles last year. While, yes, they have a pretty good linebacking core, the thing with their linebacking core is that their linebacker core is only that good because their defensive line is the best in the NFL. They're all playing in the same front 7. Because of their defensive line, their linebackers look a lot better than they really should be because Nick Bosa and guys are commanding double teams and double blocks, and everyone's worried about the defensive front rather than the linebackers. Because of that, I think their linebackers take major advantage. But I think when you're comparing linebacker cores as a whole, Bobby Wagner versus their best guy, whether you want to say Fred Warner or Quan Alexander, I'll take Bobby. The second guy, KJ versus whoever, is a wash. And then you take the third guy, whoever it is with San Francisco, Dre Greenlaw, if you want to give him to me, versus Jordan Brooks. I'll take Jordan Brooks. Because of that, I like Seattle.
All right. I like that. A little positivity into this whole thing. So we got Noah going with Seattle with the linebacking edge. And you know what? I was starting to lean a little bit more towards the red, but after listening to that little speech of yours, I'm going back to Seattle, baby. I'm going to be the homer that I am. I'm going Seattle, baby. Bobby Wagner, what was he, number 16 or something like that in the top 100? He was down there in the top 20.
13.
15. Yeah.
13.
13. Lucky number 13. And yes, you're right. KJ Wright, Heck, I got to hang out with him during my girls' volleyball practice. So that alone puts me in a better feeling with KJ. And, of course, Jordan Brooks, man. Jordan Brooks, the more I watch highlights of this guy's got speed. They brought him in particularly because of the fact that KJ and Bobby are slowing down. His speed and aggressiveness makes up and invigorates the linebacking department. So I go with you there, Noah. Let's go with linebackers, Seattle on the edge there. So now we get to the cornerbacks. We get to talk about our new corners and talk about an old corner, our old friend Richard Sherman over at San Francisco, still hanging in there, doing good stuff. But is it good enough to put them over the top? Ori, what's your take? Cornerbacks, San Francisco or Seattle?
Seattle. Richard Sherman, he's kind of slowed down as you saw in the playoffs. He got beat twice. He's still pretty good. But I don't think he's at that level he used to be. And their other corner is Ahkello Witherspoon. He's not. I don't think the two of them together are as good as Quentin Dunbar and Shaquille Griffin. So I'm going to give it to Seattle.
Okay, so a vote for Seattle in the cornerbacks department. Let's go to Calvin. What do you think?
I second that, and I think that we get the advantage here in the cornerback battle. I think that the biggest weakness in San Francisco's defense is in their secondary, and they didn't really do too much to address that this past offseason. Richard Sherman looked like a shell of himself in the Super Bowl, getting burnt by the likes of Sammy Watkins, and I think that you take into account the fact that he's slowing down, he's only getting older. That doesn't bode well for him. I think on our side of the ball, we have an emerging up-and-coming corner, not only Shaquille Griffin, but also in Quentin Dunbar. This one isn't very hard. Seattle takes advantage here.
All right, so we then go to Noah. Can we make it 3, or are you seeing red in this one?
Okay, well, let's allow me to use this example. So last year, Richard Sherman had 3 interceptions. How did the San Francisco 49ers do as a team? They made it to the Super Bowl. Offense was potent. Defensive line was phenomenal. Everything was clicking. Sherman has 3 picks and a touchdown. The year before, Sherman, you wouldn't say that he'd lose a step being younger. So probably the same Sherman, if not even better than the year following. Richard Sherman had 0 interceptions that year with San Francisco. What was the difference? Well, the difference was your team had the lead and your defensive line was playing out of their minds. That's not to do with the secondary. That's not to do with Richard Sherman. That's to do with the supporting cast. You got to know when Lamar it's the Lamar versus Russell Wilson argument. Is Russell Wilson making his team better to an extent where he's raising everyone around him, or is he being held up by the guys around him? Because of that, I take Richard Sherman as the second secondary with San Francisco. Seattle is definitely the favorite here. San Francisco benefits majorly from that phenomenal defensive line. Because of that, Seattle's cornerbacks are holding it up.
All right, so a third vote for the Seahawks cornerback position group, and I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to say as well, again, because of Quentin Dunbar coming in here, if it was Trey Flowers, I might feel a little bit differently about it, but because it is Quentin Dunbar in there on the right side and Shaquille Griffin on the left, I am going to say as well that Seattle is holding it down in terms of the cornerback battle. San Francisco and versus Seattle. Seattle got the edge in the corner. So that takes us down to our final category, our favorite safety department. Ori, what do you think?
I think our safeties are better. So Seattle, they have, San Francisco has Jaquiski Tart and some other guy. I think San Francisco's is above average, but Seattle's is. I'm going to give the edge to Seattle too on the safeties.
Okay, Ori says safeties with the edge there. Let's go to Calvin.
Well, if I'm going to make the bold statement that Seattle is projected to have the best safety duo in football, then there isn't any reason why I should pick any other safety group over Seattle, and so Seattle wins this one.
Okay. All right, sticking with the safeties, not backing down from there, sticking with that best safety group in Seattle. possibly in the league. We'll have to see about that. But there we go. 2 votes in for the Seattle on the safety side. Let's go to Noah.
Jamal Adams by himself wins this argument. You had Quandre Diggs, and you are in the conversation for best safety tandem in the NFL. Seattle wins in a landslide.
All right, and without a doubt, you got to put that in there for me as well. I'm going with the safeties, the tandem, Jamal Adams, Quandre Diggs, no doubt about it. And so there you go. Based on this, is close. Defensive line goes to San Francisco. Pretty even on the linebacker front, but when you get to the back end, the cornerbacks and the safeties, Seattle with the obvious advantage. And I think it has to be said, and I think you brought this up, Noah, is that there's a relationship between the defensive line and the secondary, right? Because as you said, if the defensive line is great, and really with the rest of the linebackers as well, if the defensive line is great, which the 49ers are, the rest of the groups look great. And that was the same with Seattle. Our LOB was established on the fact that we had this fantastic defensive line that took so much pressure and took the pressure off the cornerbacks and safeties, made them look really good. They're really good anyway, but it's a lot easier to cover a guy for 2 seconds or 3 seconds as opposed to having to cover a guy for 4, 5, 6. Any secondary is going to look pretty bad once the defensive line stops putting pressure on the quarterback, and he's got all day back there to throw, survey, and wait for a guy to get open. So it's skewed towards us here that Seattle has the more categories, I think, to our favor, but the fact that the 49ers defensive line is so dominant, it makes up for a lot of those blemishes in the other categories. So which defense is better? We're going to have to find out. But I think, again, because of the fact that we've improved in the cornerbacks and safeties, it will help us catch up a little bit in the overall scheme of things. But we've got to see what those pieces are going to be in the defensive line, and we have yet to find out. Is it going to be Clay Matthews? Is it going to be Griffin? Is it going to be Clowney? Is it going to be 1? Is it going to be 2? Is it going to be none? I mean, there's no guarantee any of these guys are coming for sure. And all we know right now is that they're late to the party because Seahawks hit training camp today. And as we know, any player they decide to sign on, it's going to take 5 days for testing, COVID testing, to go through before they can even get onto the practice field. So we shall find out. Quentin Dunbar isn't even here yet. I mean, he's here, but he hasn't practiced yet. He got here on Sunday, and look, it's already Wednesday. He has not seen the field yet because he's still waiting for his COVID test to go through. So that's how long it takes in this modern COVID-19 NFL that we've got to, it takes time for these things to happen, and we have less time for us to prepare, for any team to prepare. So we shall see. But I think overall it bodes well that our defense has to be better. It's got to be better than what we had. And based on this, I feel like we should be definitely better than the 20 or higher. We've got to get into the teens, and maybe, depending on what they do with that defensive line, could nudge us closer to that top 10, I'd like to think. So Jeremy Goebel with a super chat says, Crisosimo versus Crisosimo 2.0. Who will win? There's only one Crisosimo. There is no 2.0, baby. You'll find that out soon enough. Anyway, there we go. So let's wrap this. I guess there's any other thing. Is there any other stones unturned to the panel before we wrap up this defensive talk? Do you guys want to add anything in regards to this conversation about defense? What should we? Anything else to add, or why we should be optimistic about the Seattle defense that we haven't talked about yet? Any of you guys want to add something to it?
Yeah, I think that one of the reasons why we haven't signed a guy like Everson Griffin or Clay Matthews yet is because we're kind of using them as bait to hopefully bring back Jadeveon Clowney. And so I think that the likelihood of us bringing them back hopefully goes up just a little bit. Obviously, Clowney was talking about the New York Jets as a possibility, but I mean, do you really want to go to the Jets? I think that if he's serious about contending, going back to Seattle, especially at this point in the offseason, is his only realistic option if he wants to cash in next offseason. I think that we're using those guys to potentially bring him in. And so I think that that bodes well for our future.
All right, Noah, any last thoughts about the defense?
So I feel like if people just in a capsule were just looking at how we ranked our defensive position groups and how on earth could Seattle have a better defense next year than San Francisco, I think it's important to mention, and the same reason that I have Seattle's defense between 9 and 14 finishing next year is because of position importance is not the same throughout the entire defense. Defensive line is the priority in today's game with how phenomenal quarterback play is in the NFL. Because of that, you have to weight it a lot more. We saw the ripple effect that it had last year for San Francisco, increasing their defense to a Super Bowl caliber defense and a Super Bowl favorite defense based on how dominant their defensive line was. And I think that what this test that we just did, going position group by position group, really shows is how important defensive line is. And if Seattle can't get our defensive line right, nothing is going to work, despite how talented our secondary is. Also, I think it's important to point out Quentin Dunbar is wearing number 22 when he comes back, and I think that is pretty exciting considering I don't remember a lot of 22s in recent Seahawks history.
That is a good point. That's a good point. I can't think of a recent Seahawk wearing the number 22, so that will be kind of cool.
CG Pro size.
Yeah, but not on the defensive side. So yeah, that will be fun to see. All right. Well, I think it's time for what everybody's been waiting for. It's trivia time. You guys ready for this?
Yes, I have to go in 17 minutes though.
Oh. Well, okay. Well, you can hang as long as we can, and if you have to go, you have to go. But we'll see if we can get past all these questions. I can't guarantee, but we'll see how good we can make this thing happen.
12 questions, 17 minutes.
12 questions. I don't know. That's going to be a lot. Well, not that fast. All right, let's do this thing. Let's get to the Kahoot and get your guys' Kahoot apps ready, kahoot.com, and let's do this thing. Here we go. Let's starting it off and get ready to jump in. This is NorbCam Trivia. Here we go. And here's your number. Entered in 264481 is the PIN number. 264481. Punch that into your Kahoot app or your Kahoot.com and get into the game. 264481. Sports Nerd, one of the first one on there. Alex Wacker, Nick LaBow, Evan Iverson, that dude, Titan CJ, Seahawks Chick, Hitomi, Nate S., Andrew Sund, what's up? The Zikinator, Mr. Unlimited. Oh yeah, Mr. Unlimited. Russell Wilson talking about that during one of his Instagram posts. Blunts the Seaweed, nice. Rain City Schmilligod, always in there. 25 players now in there. 49er fan Scary, Ace Pulls, Stiglitz, Joe Mama, 12th Man. We got 30 players in. I'm looking to try to get 50 if we can. Peach Man in there. 32 players now. Come on, there's a lot more of you in the YouTube stream. Let's get you on here. 32 players going. We get about 30 more seconds.
121, to be exact. 121.
Again, the PIN number is 264481. 264481. I know some of you guys might be watching on Facebook Live. You can join in as well, 264481, and live streaming on Periscope simultaneously as well. 37 players now, just a few more to go. 15 seconds left. Let's get it close to 50 if we can. Ray Loves Me is in the house. Seahawks Martin. I don't know if it's the real Seahawks Martin, but it's a Seahawks Martin. Big Ounce, Seahawks Fan Do, Dangerous, KJ DeBoss, Free the Gaggles, Rain City, Lamar Jackson. 10 seconds. A few more of you left. 37 in the house.
8,
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, we'll roll with this 39 here. Tom Shady, 40, 41. Couple more jumping in here. I'll give you just a couple more seconds left. 41 players in here. Lego Fat Man, Rye Guy. All right. 3, 2, 1. We are starting the game right now. Here we go. 12 questions. Here we go. A little mix of everything. A little bit of Seahawks, a little bit of NorbCam, a little bit of something else. Here we go. First question. Question number 1. Who's the fastest player in the Seattle secondary? Quentin Dunbar, Shaquille Griffin, Quandre Diggs, or Jamal Adams?
40 times.
40 times. In 40 times. Fastest player in the Seattle secondary. Dunbar, Griffin, Diggs, or Adams? Got 3 seconds. Dunbar, Griffin, Diggs, or Adams? Oh, 10 of you guys got that one correct. Yes, Shaquille Griffin with a pretty phenomenal speed time there. Let's see what our panel guessed on this one. Starting with you, Ori.
I put Shaquille Griffin. So it was, he had, I know Jamal Adams, I just looked it up a few days ago, it was like 4.45. Quentin Dunbar was also around 4.45. Quandre Diggs was like 4.56, and Shaquille Griffin was a 4.38. So I knew this one.
All right, good for you. I think Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs, I think they both had a 4.56. They were like tied, I believe. But so it was a really close race. Shaquille Griffin definitely on top. Calvin, did you get this one? Calvin?
Oh, sorry, I was kind of cutting off. I chose Dunbar just because I know that back when he played college, he used to be on the punt team, and he used to be the gunner. And so I thought that because of that, he had an advantage in speed. But now that I look back on it, it is Griffin, and so I got that one wrong.
All right. Noah?
I put Diggs. I was thinking, he's a little guy. He's a fasty little bugger. I thought he might be the one. Because I remember Shaq's wasn't tremendously fast. It wasn't like groundbreaking speed. But I guess it was enough to lead this group. So
Just enough. Yes, it was. All right, let's go to the scoreboard and see where YouTube stands. All right, Free the Gaggles jumps out on top with Blunts and Seaweed in second. Ha! In third. Remember the time in fourth. And Rain City in fifth. All in the 800s right now. Pretty close. Let's go to question number 2. What is the name of Russell Wilson's recently born child? Is it Russell Jr., Chosen, Win, or Future? What is the name of Russell Wilson's recently born child? Russell Jr., Chosen, Win, or Future? Russell Wilson's kid. Russell Jr., Chosen, Win, or Future? Oh, yes, that was a pretty easy softball toss right there. Yes, Win. Win Harrison Wilson is the name of his newborn son. Let's go to Ori here.
I knew this one. It was easy. It was Win.
Yes. Calvin?
I didn't know this one, but I got it right. I guess Win. I kind of broke it down. I was like, no way he's naming his son after himself. Future. Why would he name it after Future when his other kids, adopted kids, already named Future? And then Chosen, I don't know, knowing Russ, I don't think he's that type of guy to name his son like, oh, he's the chosen one, or like he's the chosen. And so I kind of was left with Win, and I said Win.
Chosen is actually, isn't that the son of Cam Newton? So there is a quarterback who would name his son Chosen One. So there you go. Noah, did you know this little trivia?
Oh, yeah. And I thought the Future one was just hilarious based on their rivalry. But, yeah, no, I knew it was Win.
All right. Pretty landslide one there. Let's go to, so that's a two Ori with a score, Calvin with 1, and Noah with 1. And let's go to the YouTube scoreboard. Free the Gaggles still in first. Blunts of Seaweed in second. Remember the time still in third, or up to third place. The Zekinator in fourth. Go Hawks in fifth. And 12th man climbing up 27 places. Next question. Number 3. What is the Kevin Costner football movie that prominently features the Seahawks? Invincible, Any Given Sunday, Draft Day, or Jerry Maguire? The Kevin Costner movie that prominently features the Seahawks. Invincible, Any Given Sunday, Draft Day, or Jerry Maguire? Again, Invincible, Any Given Sunday, Draft Day, or Jerry Maguire? Oh, YouTube, we're all over it again. 23 of you got this correct. Yes, it was Draft Day. It came out in 2014. Let's see if the panel knew the answer to this little cinema trivia. Ori.
Nope, I put Invincible. I had no idea, so I'm just like
Have you seen any of these movies?
No.
It's a little bit before your generation. Actually, Invincible was a movie about the Eagles. Many years ago, there was a walk-on. They had a walk-on opportunity for people to try out for the Eagles, and this guy actually got on the team just walking on from the street. So that was what the story of Invincible was. Let's go to Calvin. Did you know this movie?
Yeah, but for a weird reason. I knew that Kevin Costner was in Draft Day, and I watched that movie. It was a very good movie, but I don't remember the Seahawks being in it. But because you said Kevin Costner and I saw Draft Day, I put two and two together, and I said Draft Day.
Okay, yeah, they were. In fact, I think one of the opening scenes in the movie, it's about the draft. And this came out in 2014. Ironically, the opening of the movie starts off with people protesting at the gates of the practice facility because the Seahawks were so bad, they wanted to kick out the manager and the coach because we were so horrible. And this was the year we won the Super Bowl. So it was a weird movie to watch because it was like, wait a second, what kind of Seahawks world is this? It's pretty hilarious when it came out. I had a good chuckle about that. Noah, did you know about this movie?
You know, Norb, I am not a pop culture movie watcher kind of guy. I don't know actors. I don't know movies. I knew one answer that it wasn't. And the only reason I knew that was because of a phone call that we had earlier this week where you were telling me about Jerry Maguire. So I knew it wasn't that one. But then I looked at the other three and I was like, okay, which one sounds like a movie about the Seahawks or like it could have the Seahawks? I knew Draft Day was a big movie, so I'm like, it couldn't have been about Seattle. And then because of that, I went with Any Given Sunday because I feel like Any Given Sunday we have a chance, and Seattle and Invincible doesn't even sound right together. So I said Any Given Sunday.
Oh, man. Any Given Sunday was a movie that came out in, I think, either 1999 or 98 or 99, and it had who's the guy from oh God, blanking on the name here, Godfather. Who's our Godfather? Al Pacino. Al Pacino was like the main star, and it had anyway, it's a terrible movie. I hated it. And the NFL didn't even sign on, so they had to make up all these weird names because they didn't sign off on using actual teams in that movie. But side story, I was actually visiting my business partner. He's actually got a brother-in-law in the NFL, so we actually were down in Miami at the time because he was with the Miami Dolphins. We went to the world premiere of that in Miami, and so we were sitting in the theater with the director, Oliver Stone, in the house, all these agents with their Bluetooth ear in there walking around, players all over the place walking. It was surreal. It was like the coolest thing, but like the worst movie. So it was a bizarre experience, but pretty cool. Once in a lifetime thing for me. All right, let's go to the scoreboard, see how we're doing after this easy question for some of y'all. Remember the time it gets moved up to first place. Blunts and Seaweed in second. Nick LaBow moving up there to third place. Ha! Gets to fourth. And Alex Wacker makes it to the top 5 at number 5. Next question. Number 4. How many holding penalties did Jermaine Ifedi commit in 2019? Was it 5, 8, 3, or 4? Holding penalties committed by Jermaine Ifedi in 2019. 5, 8, 3, or 4? Holding penalties. Jermaine Ifedi last season. 5, 8, 3, or 4? Wow, you guys were really going hard on him. Actual answer, only 3 of you got correct. 4 holding penalties. I said specifically holding penalties. You got 4 of them. 3 of you guys got this right. A lot of you were on the upside of it. Let's see if our panel thought the same way. Ori.
No, I thought it was 8. I thought he had like more than 10, and then maybe 8 of them were holding. But the other day, like a few weeks back, I made this video where I pretended to be Jermaine Ifedi, and I pretended to false start, and I pretended to be this ref who threw out a flag.
Okay. Well, I think if you thought it was 8, I believe 8 was the correct number of total penalties. But in terms of holding, it was 4. So Ori missed that one. Calvin.
I was very tempted to say 8, but then I looked at it again and I was like, if you asked about false starts, then I would definitely say 8. But yeah, 8's a little too harsh, so I went with 5. So I was just 1 over, but I got it wrong.
All right, so 2 points apiece for Ori and Calvin. Noah, can you tie the game up with this answer?
Well, the chat seems to think that it was 5. I hope that the chat is wrong because I didn't say 5. With the way you asked this question, I was like, okay, you're trying to use the overall theme around Jermaine Ifedi is 1.5 million penalties. So I feel like you were using that psychology against us by putting 8 as an option. I was like, it's not going to be 8. It's not going to be 5 because those are the biggest 2 options. I don't think it goes with the smallest option. So I did say 4.
Well, this is my contest. I'll have to double check that. I'm pretty sure I had that, but apparently people in the chat beg to differ. But for now, this is what it is. So we will fact check that later. But that puts you. So you said 4. Yeah. So that ties you up. So it's 3-way tie for second. We'll double check the stats on there. I'm pretty sure I got that right, but maybe my source was wrong. We'll see. Let's go.
I'm okay with it.
We'll find out. But it is what it is right now. Let's go to the scoreboard. Many people off on this one. Here we go.
I have to leave soon, so I want to quickly talk about my channel.
All right. Okay. We'll do that now before I get to the next questions. Remember, the time is in first. Blunts and Seaweed in second. Go Hawks moves to third. Nick LaBow in fourth. And in fifth. Unfortunately, Ori has to leave, so let's take a moment just to allow you to talk about your channel real quick before you say goodbye. So, Ori, go ahead.
So, on my channel, in the past I've been talking. I'll do some sports videos, but recently I've started doing a few non-sports type videos. But I'll talk sports, and then I also start making some non-sports videos, and my links are in the description. My YouTube. I also have Quora and Twitch and Instagram. They're all in the YouTube. So it was fun having me. So
yeah, that was great having you on. And again, you earned it.
I beat it last time because if I win next week, the week after that, I have to be in school.
Oh, school time. I know. School's back in session.
Yep.
Noah's going back to school. Everybody's going back to school in just the next few weeks. Some of you are already in school, I think, and around the country. But, Ori, thanks for joining, man. And again, congratulations on winning the trivia. It was a tie game here, so we'll never know how you would have done. But so far, you were right neck and neck with the rest of the guys. So congratulations again on being on here, and we'll talk to you later. All right.
Bye.
Take care, Ori. Let's go back to the scoreboard, or actually we're going to the next question here. All right, there's your standings. Next question. Oh, let's see, what does it say? Combo breaker. 4 players have dropped their answer streak of 3. All right, here we go. Next question. How many holding penalties did Walter Jones commit in his 12-year career? Was it 8, 13, 19, or 24? How many holding penalties did Walter Jones commit in his Hall of Fame 12-year career? 8, 13, 19, or 24? Walter Jones holding penalties. 8, 13, 19, or 24? Wow, YouTube, you guys are sharp on this one. That or else you figuring me out. Yes, doggone it, my camera turned off on me again. The answer is correct. It is, where are we? I gotta turn off my thing here because I'm all black. All right, lose me for a second. All right, so the correct answer was 8. 8 holding calls in his 12-year career, which blows my freaking mind. That means Ifedi had half of his career holding calls in just one season. Let's go to, well, Ori's gone now, so we got to go to Calvin. Calvin, what you got?
I got this one right. I remember seeing a stat comparing the number of holding penalties that Walter Jones had in his entire career compared to what Jermaine Ifedi had, I think, in a year or two. And so I thought all the other numbers were a little too high. So I went with 8.
All right. Correct answer there. Noah.
You know, unfortunately, I remember seeing the same stat, but like common sense just said, dude, no way. Like, Walter Jones played too long for that. So I said 13.
Okay, so that puts Calvin in the lead. Let's go to the scoreboard and see what we got here. Blunts and Seaweed moves up to first. Wow, lots of changes. Nick LaBow to second. Go Hawks in third. The Zekinator moves up to fourth. And Remember the Time drops to 5th place. And the homeboy Mo is the highest climber, up 16 places. Let's go to the next question. Number 6. Which Seahawks position group was ranked number 1 by ESPN's Mike Clay? Was it our secondary, the linebackers, the receivers, or the running backs? Which Seahawks position group was ranked number 1 by ESPN's Mike Clay last week? Secondary, linebackers, receivers, or running backs? Time is up. Oh, you guys have been watching the news, paying attention. Yes, it was the linebacking crew elected number 1 ranked by ESPN's Mike Clay. Let's see if Cal and Noah were paying attention. We've got Calvin with the lead 3-2. What do you got, Calvin?
See, I'm not the best at paying attention. Sometimes I feel like I have ADHD. But I went with the secondary. I felt like our secondary is a little stronger throughout linebacking core, so I went with the secondary. I got it wrong.
All right. That was the trap. That would be the obvious second answer. But Noah, how about you?
You know, with this one, I didn't see the report. So I started going through and trying to eliminate position groups if I could. Wide receivers, we have great wide receivers, but then I thought about some better wide receiver cores that not a lot of people would argue with, like New Orleans, Tampa Bay right now. So I ruled that out. The running back group, Chris Carson, he has injury problems at times. While, yes, we have a really good running back group, I don't think people would say it's unequivocally the best in the league. So I ruled that out. And then secondary versus linebacker core, I think while, yes, we just added some pieces to our secondary, it's recency bias. I did say linebacker core because we have the best linebacker in the NFL, and it's more of Seattle's mantra.
Very good, sir. So you tied up the game there, Calvin with 3 and Noah with 3, all tied up. So let's see what the YouTube scoreboard looks like after this question that YouTube audience dominated. 22, you got this correct. But there are changes. Blunts of Seaweed, though, strong at the top. Nick LaBow holding at second. Remember the time moves back up to third. The Zekinator stays at fourth. And Mihir Kumar jumps into the top 5 at number 5. And Nate S. climbing up 9 places, trying to get into the top 5. Let's go to the next question. HBO's Hard Knocks focuses on which NFL team or teams? The Las Vegas Raiders, Cincinnati Bengals, LA Rams and Chargers, or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? HBO's Hard Knocks focuses on which team or teams? The Las Vegas Raiders, the Bengals, the Rams and Chargers, or the Buccaneers? Premiered last night. Oh, yes, YouTube on point again. 19 of you got this correct. Yes, it is the LA Rams and the Chargers. Let's go to Calvin. Do you watch this show?
I actually don't, but I do pay attention, and I do want to start getting into it. I said the 2 LA teams, but real quick, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but bad news. Everson Griffin is signed with the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, no. Oh, no. That just broke?
That's what everyone's saying in the chat. They said Ian Rappaport broke it, and, obviously he's a very credible source. I'm trying to look it up myself, but from what everyone's saying,
I'm checking Twitter right now myself.
Yeah.
Dang.
No, I was saying before, as you guys were talking, that one hurt because he said Seattle and Minnesota were making all the noise about it, and then Dallas was kind of under the radar and just added a key cog to their defense. That one kind of hurt.
Was Dallas one of the teams he was even mentioning? No, he never mentioned it. Didn't he say like Green Bay and Minnesota? Didn't I always say they never do what they say they're going to do? It's always a bunch of chatter. They're always working the leverage play. That's what I'm telling you, man. More further evidence that it could be Clowney coming back here. I'm just saying now that this Griffin thing didn't happen, because who's left? Dang. I would have liked the Griffin thing, so... all right, let's go to the scoreboard. Let's see what's up.
Let's get Bayless.
Oh, wait.
Too.
All right, well, it's a done deal then. So, all right, so Calvin got 4. I guess I didn't get to ask you, Noah. Did you get this one right?
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
Oh, Hard Knocks covering which team? Hard Knocks is covering which team?
Oh, yeah. No, yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah? Who are they covering?
Yeah, no. I watch it, and I know
Okay.
The other teams have been.
You got this too. So it's 4-4 tie. Yeah, you're too discombobulated because of the bad news. All right, let's go to let's go to the scoreboard while we're reeling from this unfortunate news about Everson Griffin going to the wrong team. Cowboys, for crying out loud. Here we go. Scoreboard. Blunts of Seaweed.
That hurt.
Nick LaBow on fire with 3 straight answers correct. The Zekinator moves to 3rd. Remember the Time in 4th place. And Free the Gaggles jumps onto the top 5 at number 5. Nick LaBeau, 3 in a row. Doing pretty good there. Here we go. Next question. Number 8. Tight end Greg Olsen will be a commentator with which network after he retires? NBC, NFL Network, Fox, or ESPN? Greg Olsen will be a commentator with which network after he retires? NBC, NFL Network, Fox, or ESPN? NBC, NFL Network, Fox, ESPN. Easy questions the last few. You guys are nailing it on YouTube. 18 of you got it right. It is Fox. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Let's see if our panel is just as sharp as YouTube is. Calvin.
Yes, sir. I said Fox because I've seen him on I've seen him on a few, broadcasts on a Fox televised game last year. I think it was a Carolina Panthers game, actually. And yeah, that's kind of what led me to believe that it was Fox. So.
All right. Yep, he did. And he came back out of retirement to play with the Seahawks. Noah.
They were just talking about it, or Aaron Levine was talking about it on the training camp live stream today, and talking about how it's better for him to stay on the field, otherwise he's going to take their jobs in broadcasting. So I knew that it was Fox.
Okay. All right. You guys are neck and neck, 5 points apiece. Let's go to the YouTube scoreboard and see where they stand right now. No change. We got a tight match here, relatively tight. Blunts of Seaweed in first with 5,771 points. Nick LaBeau in second, about 200 points behind. The Zekinator in third, about 500 points behind him. Remember the Time in fourth with 5,000 points. And Free the Gaggles bringing up the rear. 4 players have had a 4-streak answer going on here. So we're going to get to the tricky ones here coming up. And double points right around the corner. Next question. Number 9. Which of the following is not a football movie? The Waterboy, The Last Boy Scout, Rudy, The Heart of the Game. Which is not a football movie? The Waterboy, The Last Boy Scout, Rudy, The Heart of the Game. Which one is not a football movie? Here we go. Time is up. Oh my goodness! We have some major misfires on this one. Most of YouTube thought it was number 20, The Last Boy Scout. We're going back in time, way ahead of your time on this one. Last Boy Scout, not the correct answer. The Heart of the Game was the correct answer. That was a girls basketball movie. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a second, but let's first find out how our panel did with Calvin.
I got this one wrong. I was, at first when I looked at The Last Boy Scout, I wanted to rule that out because I was kind of taking a page out of Noah's book. I was using reverse psychology. I was like, you look at a title like that and you're like, okay, no way that's the title of a football movie, but knowing the way that you format your questions, I was like, okay, that could be the one. But I was still kind of thinking I hadn't chose that. Or actually, no. Yeah, so I chose that. So I was in the process of thinking. I was still going through, the elimination process, and I hadn't yet moved on to the other options, and so I was stuck on that, and I chose that.
So did you know the other two, though? You knew the Waterboy and Rudy?
Oh, I know about Rudy. I haven't watched it, but I do remember hearing about it, and people telling me that it was a very good movie, and that it was a football movie, and so I knew that much.
Okay, all right. Well, your psychology was correct. I definitely picked a football movie that would not sound like a football movie, but then I also picked a movie that sounded like a football movie that wasn't a football movie, and it kind of fooled most of you guys. You had the same thought process, but did you have a different thought on this one?
Norb, you know how to confuse me with these movie questions. So when I was breaking this down, I was like, my initial response, and I swear to you, for 9 of the 10 seconds that this question was asked, my answer was Rudy. I was thinking like, okay.
You didn't know Rudy?
I don't know any of these. And so I'm looking at these like, Okay, Waterboy, the last Boy Scout. I feel like that's got to be football because that feels like the easiest one to guess, and Norb wouldn't make it that easy. Rudy, I feel like, is up there with Boy Scout, but a little bit simpler, just quick and to the point. So I was like, you know what, Rudy, I like Rudy. Rudy's a good name. But so I stuck with Rudy for 9 of the 10 seconds, but last minute I was like, you know what, the last one is too easy. The heart of the game. And I promise you, I switched to it last second. I'm like, that looks like a football movie. So I'm going to say it, and it was right.
Okay, so for that question, then you just took a 1-point lead, 6-5 over Calvin. Just to tell you a little bit about these movies, so these are all probably before your guys' time because most of these came out in like the 90s or earlier. The Waterboy is an Adam Sandler movie where he plays the water boy, and it's a hilarious football comedy. You should watch any of these movies; they're pretty good. The Last Boy Scout is a movie with Bruce Willis, and he plays like this retired cop, and Damon Wayans, I think, plays a ex-football guy. And anyway, it's got a football theme to it, but it's also kind of a cop. Bad cop, good cop kind of thing going on there. Kind of silly, but it was a football-themed movie. Rudy is the famous one with, forgot the actor's name. He's the guy who plays the chubby guy in...
Kevin James.
What's that?
Kevin James?
No. Rudy plays the Hobbit, the plumper Hobbit in the Lord of the Rings. Gosh, I can't remember his name. Have you guys seen Lord of the Rings? You know what I'm talking about? You guys can't relate to me. I'm like in a whole other thing. Anyway, he plays this walk-on. True story, based on a kid named Rudy who walks on to the practice squad for Notre Dame, and he's totally undersized, total like underdog movie, but it's got one of these heroic moments that is based on a true story. You should watch it. It's very inspirational, kind of like a Rocky of football movies. And The Heart of the Game is actually a documentary based on the Roosevelt High School basketball team from the 90s where they won, I think, the state championship. And it won like a bunch of awards, huge film festivals. But yeah, it's about our local Roosevelt High School girls basketball team from many years ago. All right, let's go to the scoreboard, see where we're at here. After that little trick question. Okay, Blunts and Seaweed holding it up, but it's really tight now. Remember the Time moves up to second and is only like 25 points behind. Nick LaBow in third, Zeke Nader in fourth, and Free the Gaggles holding in fifth. Tough round, it says 3 players lost their 3-answer streak. So we go to now the double Jeopardy points here. Double points. Last 3 questions, here we go. Number 10. Double points. Which of the following is not a cereal mascot? Toucan Sam, Billy Bear, Yummy Mummy, or Tony the Tiger? Which one is not a cereal mascot? Toucan Sam, Billy Bear, Yummy Mummy, or Tony the Tiger? Which one is not a cereal mascot? Yeah, you guys got this. You surprised me, YouTube. 18 of you guys correct. Billy Bear is the fake answer in this. Wow, everybody knew it. Nobody guessed Tony the Tiger. I guess Frosted Flakes are still pretty popular. Let's see how well you guys know those sugary, bad-for-you cereals. This question inspired, by the way, from the Boelter from you guys' show on Saturday, from when you asked questions all about cereal mascots. So I had to throw one in myself. So, Calvin, how well do you know these mascots?
See, I thought I knew my cereal, but I guess not. Obviously, we know about Toucan Sam. I love Fruit Loops, by the way. Frosted Flakes, I love Frosted Flakes, so I know my guy.
Tony the Tiger.
Billy the Bear, or Billy Bear. I don't know who that is, but I have seen a few bears on some cereal, so I was like, it can't be. I was like, it has to be a cereal. So I looked at Yummy Mummy. And I tried thinking of mummies on cereal boxes, and I was like, you know what? I don't know of any mummies on cereal boxes, so that can't be a cereal brand. I chose Yummy Mummy, and in my disbelief, I got it wrong.
Wow. So Calvin stays at 5 points. Noah, you set up these questions. You inspired me to put cereal mascots on here, so I got to think that you must know this because you researched it yourself. Tell me I'm right, that you knew the answer to this.
Norb, sometimes I ask questions on the show that I couldn't answer myself. Like when I didn't know Toucan Sam's name before writing that question, so I was very impressed when you got it right. So, but because we did the show, like Calvin, I had it down to 2, Billy Bear and Yummy Mummy. But what I did different than Calvin, well, yes, I can remember seeing a lot of bears on cereal. Yummy Mummy is not a name that I would create if asking about cereals. I'd make a fake name like Billy Bear. Because of that, I said Billy Bear. I said Yummy Mummy is just crazy enough to be real.
Well, that was good psychology. So everybody knows Toucan Sam. That was even on your actual question. Tony the Tiger is like the softball toss. So Yummy Mummy was where that comes from. Do you guys know Count Chocula, Frankenberry, Boo Berry? You know those cereals? They come out on Halloween. Yeah. They're like strawberry flavored, blueberry, and chocolate flavored. Well, there's a 4th and a 5th one that they don't put out there, and I never find them. There's called Fruit Brute, and Yummy Mummy, and I've never gotten my hands on them. I don't even know what they taste like. I always get the 3, but I've never gotten the 4 and 5. So I went with one of those, and I figured, nope, Yummy Mummy sounds made up, so I figured that would fool a lot of people. But apparently didn't fool some of the people on the YouTube, but didn't fool you, Noah. So Calvin walked into the trap. So 2 points. Noah gets an 8-point to 5-point lead, a 3-point lead for Noah with 2 questions to go. Sean Astin, somebody in the chat said it was Sean Astin. That's the name of the guy I was thinking of who plays Rudy. Thank you very much to who said that? Somebody in there. Somebody said that. I missed the name. Thank you for that. Actually, I'm going to find you. I'm determined to find where you are. It was Alina. Alina, who's going to be on the panel. We're doing the ladies panel tomorrow, by the way. Hey. Sean Astin. Thank you, Alina. Let's do this. All right, let's go to the scoreboard. As we close in on the finish here. Oh, lots of changes. Remember the time moves up to top of the heap at 7,200 points. Blunts of Seaweed drops down to 2, only 300 points behind, or less than 300 points behind. Free the Gaggles moves up to 3rd. Evan Iverson moves into 4th, and the homeboy Mo, thanks to the cereal question, gets to the top 5. Remember the Time has a 5-answer streak going. With 2 questions left, it's a tight ball game. Let's see what happens next. Question number 11. Worth double. Which is not one of my favorite vacation spots based on my last collab with Noah? Is it Cancun, Mexico, Hawaii, the Bahamas, or Disneyland? Which is not one of my favorite vacation spots? Cancun, Mexico, Hawaii, the Bahamas, or Disneyland? Not a favorite spot. Time is up. Oh my gosh, they walked right into the trap. It's a trap. Oh, YouTube. And they probably didn't see the show, so they probably didn't hear. I don't know. Maybe you did see the show. Brad did this last week sometime. Was it Thursday or Friday? I can't remember when. Friday. We did it on Friday. We talked about it. This is way into the broadcast. We talked about somebody asked on an Ask Norb email, said, I might have been Ori, or it was Nick LaBow, one of the 2 guys, said, what's your favorite vacation spot? And I actually listed 3. And Hawaii was also, I think, yours too, right, Noah? You said Hawaii as well. After you said my studio is number 1. So the correct answer was the Bahamas. That was the place that was not listed. So really this is a question of Calvin having any clue at all, and Noah if he can actually recall what we talked about. Calvin.
I got it wrong. I said Disneyland. Looking at all those other places, I was just like, how could you not like the Bahamas, Hawaii, or the first, Cancun. So I was just like, it got to be Disneyland. I know you got kids yourself, but I mean, they are getting a little older. So I was just like, it got to be Disneyland. But guess it wasn't.
Oh, man. I was waiting for you to say, yeah, I was listening on the Skype and I could hear you guys talking about it. And I figured out the answer like last time. Apparently you didn't have the secret bug working that night. So no points for you. Noah, obviously slightly in your favor here, but were you paying attention?
Norb. So on the night in question, right? This was like an hour or two into the stream. We're just laid back, having a conversation. You're not thinking that it's going to be something that's going to be on trivia later. So, going through these answers, I remember you said you love to go to Disneyland, so I ruled that out immediately. I remember you said you went to Cancun, Mexico, ruled that out immediately. But Hawaii and the Bahamas, I remember I said Hawaii. I remember you said Hawaii, but I also thought I remember you said the Bahamas. In hindsight, now that we know the answer to the question, I think I remember it was the Caribbean, not the Bahamas. Am I correct?
Well, you're correct. It was
Cruise.
Caribbean, so I don't think I ever said the Bahamas. But that answer talking about the Caribbean was your follow-up where you said, have you ever been on a cruise? And then I talked about a Caribbean cruise, Mexico cruise, but that was not in my initial list of places, favorite vacations. So,
right.
Very disappointed in you, young one.
I said Hawaii.
All right. Got it wrong.
Now I remember.
I said Hawaii. I agreed right away with you. Yeah, I love Hawaii. And then I said Disneyland, I missed, and then the other one. So, all right. That keeps the score the same. It's still 8-5. Although, with that lead, Calvin's attempt to come back needed to happen on that question because with a 2-point margin, or 2 points is the only thing left, and a 3-point margin, looks like, Noah, you're going to win this match no matter what happens in the next question. But we don't know yet. In the YouTube side of things, let's find out right here. Here we go. With one question to go. Not much. Remember the time, still on top. Blunts of Seaweed in second. Evan Iverson moves up to third. Free the Gaggles holding in fourth. And just behind him, the homeboy Mo at fifth. 12 places up as Seahawks fan is the highest climber. All right, the final question. It's going to be close between the top three. Anybody could get it? Maybe. Maybe. We'll see. Remember the time seems to be the favorite right here. Here we go. Final question. Double points. Here we go. How much did my Super Bowl 48 ticket cost? Was it $2,000, $1,000, $3,000, or $1,500? My Super Bowl 48 ticket. $2,000, $1,000, $3,000, or $1,500? Time is up. Wow. I'm impressed. I don't know if that was a lucky guess by you two, but 10 of you guys, it was close. 10 of you guys all guessed it correct. 1,500 was the correct answer. Let's see what Cal and Noah have to say. Calvin, for a strong second place finish with two people, what was your answer?
I really had no clue, but because you're, a Seahawks super fan and you're in the Seahawks fan Hall of Fame, I was like, yeah, they've gotten some sort of a discount. I didn't want to go with 3,000, but I also didn't want to go with 1,000. 1,500, it seemed okay, but I went with 2,000 somewhere along the middle.
So you guessed 2,000?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. All right. Close. 1,500 was the correct amount, if I didn't say so already. Noah?
Well, I got the one wrong that you told me in a conversation, but I got the one right that I had no clue. I guessed 1,500 based on. So I thought it was. I think like when I was looking at Super Bowl tickets, I remember seeing the cheapest tickets I could find were for 3,000. So that was my initial thought. But then I was like, you read all the options, and I'm like, wait, 3,000 is the highest. There's no way he's going to pay 3,000 because you went with your dad too. So that's also an extra 3,000. I'm like, Norm's not balling like that, but like, so I was like, maybe it's the one that's like the decimal and the sacks question a while back that I got wrong because I went away from the decimal. So I went with the decimal, the half margin, 1,500.
Oh, so you did get it. Wow. Good logic there. So I will actually show you. Here's the ticket. This is the actual Super Bowl 48 ticket. You can see it right there. And if you notice,
is it beautiful?
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. Wait, I got to put it right there. It actually says a face value of $800.
What?
But I had to pay $15 because they marked it up. So, yeah, this ticket, if at face value, would have been $800, but yeah, the price I had to pay was $1,500 each. So total for the 2 tickets, me and my dad, we spent a total of $3,000.
That's not even counting hot dogs.
Yeah, it doesn't count the $40 hot dogs and chips. Oh, there goes my camera. Yeah, that was the. Yeah, exactly. It was the $40 hot dogs, chips, and 2 sodas. But yeah, and it's still pretty close to that. It's gone up a little bit since, but the cost. I remember at the time, I was real. That's a lot of money, right? And I wasn't sure if I wanted to spend that much money on this. But then you're thinking, it's the first time they've been since 2005. And the team looks good, so talked to my wife about it and my dad about it, and we decided, hey, why not? You only live once. So, yeah, pulled the trigger on it, and it was tough, though, because the cost for 1 ticket was the same cost for 2 tickets for the entire season. $1,500 is the cost for an entire season for 2 people. So you can imagine how you can imagine how tricky it is to think about parting with that kind of money, right? I mean, that's a lot of money. But
it's like my life savings.
It's a lot. But what's crazy though is that this was cheap compared to what we spent the following year. So Super Bowl 49, which we all know how that went, made this feel like a bargain discount. I don't want to talk about that one. Anyway, let's go to the final scoreboard and see who's going to be hosting a future show right here. The final podium starts right now. In third place, with 69.84, Nick LaBow in third place. In second, Remember the Time. And in first place, with 73.44, Free the Gaggles from the bottom. With 7 of 12 answers correct. Coming from the bottom, Blunts and Seaweed was in fourth, and I didn't even see who was fifth, but oh my goodness, what a shocker. Free the Gaggles, who was dragging the back end of the scoreboard, suddenly bolts up to the top to take the number 1 position. Congratulations, Free the Gaggles. I'd appreciate it if you would take a screenshot of that winning trivia contest right there. That's just so I can make sure I know it's you. But congratulations, Free the Gaggles, on winning the trivia. Man, that was totally unexpected. Came from behind big time to pull that off. So, wow. Well, that's it. Made it through. My camera was just like not wanting to cooperate today, but here we are. I made it enough through it. So that wraps up the show. And again, tomorrow I'm going to be doing a special panel, the first ever NorbCam ladies panel, an all-female guest panel. Tomorrow at, what do we say, about 4:30 or 5 o'clock? I'll post when it's coming on. But it's going to be a lot of fun. Some regulars here on the channel. So looking forward to that. But here, I got to say goodbye to my guests and thank them, as always, for joining. Calvin, Domingo, Steezy A. Smith, of course, for being on the show, and Noah Boelter of The Bolt. So, Calvin, why don't you start by telling everybody, letting them know where they can find you and what you're all about.
Yes, sir. So, as you guys all know, actually, I'm going to let Noah get into the Bolt, but you can find us on YouTube. Noah, help my boy get to 300. I haven't checked back on the subs. Are you at 300? Are you at 300? Just about.
It's getting there.
So please help him get to 300 right now. So it's awesome love. Help Norb get to 38K, 45K, hopefully K later on down the line. But links will be in the description. They'll post at least twice a week. My next video is going to be another NBA video, so I don't know how many NBA fans are out there, but it will be about Damian Lillard. Please be sure to follow me on Instagram. I made a new sports Instagram page at Steezy A. Smith, as well as a Facebook page. If you want to follow my main Instagram, it's at Steezy_away. And last but not least, I just dropped a link to my merch. As I'm rocking right here, this is one of the first designs. I got Team Squeezy merch on there as well. And hopefully I create some merch talking about the three of us. I don't know how I'm going to go about that yet, but it's Team Steezy, Team Squeezy. If you want to custom merch, if you need help finding the link, let me know. Direct message me on Instagram. I hope you guys won't be disappointed, but I'll let Noah take over.
All right. So, yeah, it was breaking up a little bit there. Calvin, but the links are in the description. Again, Steezy A. Smith. You can find his YouTube channel link and socials down below in the description. But yeah, show him some love. Subscribe to both these guys. And Noah, I'll let you go and talk about your channel, The Bolt.
Yeah, so it's crazy. Calvin said his next video is going to be about Damian Lillard. So is mine. And I'm recording this video today. I'm dropping it tomorrow about why Skip Bayless is wrong about his take on Damian Lillard and him not being the best closer potentially in the NBA right now. I'm extremely upset with how Skip Bayless has handled this whole scenario, and it's very comedic to watch. So I'm going to post a video about that very passionately here tomorrow. But I post 2 videos per week, like Calvin said. And I am right on the doorstep of 300 subscribers, 293 before this video. So if you can show me some love, I'm trying to get there real quick. Also, we just started our debut of The Bolt, which is our weekly sports show on my channel for 3 hours last week. It was a hit. It was a lot of fun. We also just dropped our merchandise. I have one of the shirts right here. If you want one of these shirts, message me on Instagram at DJSQUABO. I personally delivered Nick LaBow his order the other day, as the other 2 gentlemen, fine gentlemen, go to get their merchandise as well. Greatly appreciate it. But if you want some of this fancy merchandise, we also have a black version. Message me your size. They're flying off the shelves. Orders have been going crazy. So, but especially because I leave this Sunday for Wazoo, you definitely want to make those orders ASAP, especially if you want me to potentially deliver them in person. No question about it. And also to catch the show, subscribe to my channel. But in case you didn't hear it, because his is all blurry, go subscribe to Steezy A. Smith on YouTube. He posts great content at least once a week. His NBA knowledge and NFL knowledge are phenomenal. He's a consummate pro. Show him some love as well.
Yes, absolutely. And I got to showcase the merch too, because I got one as well. Really, very cool shirt. Thank you, man, for dropping this off. That's the reason why we did that show on Friday, because you came by to drop this off, and we ended up doing a little live collab at the same time. So, very cool. There you go. Check it out. That's pretty cool design, man. Hats off to you. And yeah, I gotta get some of your merch too, there, Calvin. It's pretty sweet. So,
right.
Yeah. So at the end of this video, right coming up here, you're gonna see links to other videos that you can watch, including buttons that will take you to their channels as well. That's going to be here on this end screen that you're probably seeing right now. So do that. Do us a favor. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and that notification bell. It's such a huge help to all of us. So thank you so much for watching, everybody. I'm NorbCam. Thanks for watching. Again, thank you, Calvin. Thank you, Noah, and of course, thank you, Ori, for joining us earlier on the panel. And we will catch you guys next time on the next show. Take care, and go Hawks.